guys, it's Charlene. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do negative masking with some of the new products from Altenew. So let's get started. I have here the Festive and Joyful Ensemble from Altenew. This is the Joy die set, which we'll be using. And this is the Joy coloring stencil. I'm not going to be using this today, but wanted to show it to you. I will also be using the Festive Greenery Builder Stencil set. There's a couple of stencils here, and it creates some really nice greenery for your cards. And you can see here, inside the packaging, it shows you exactly how to layer everything up and gives you some ideas. And then lastly, the Botanical 3D embossing folder, which I'll be using as well. So negative masking just requires some masking paper and a die or a stamp. So I have a piece of masking paper here, and I'm using the Joy outline die. If you had a stamp, you could stamp that and then fussy cut everything out. Either works, but I have the die that creates the outline for the Joy die cut, so it was really easy peasy to just go ahead and use that outline die to cut it out. When you're doing any kind of negative masking, you want to make sure that you cut out where you want your finished stenciling to be on your card panel, because you're going to cover up your whole card panel with the masking paper, and then you're going to be stenciling inside of the negative space of the masking paper. So I've taken off half of the release tape from the back of the mask, and then I'm just lining it up along the edge of my card panel here. This is an A2 size card panel, so it's 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. And it makes it really easy to line it up using my scoreboard. So you can get everything right along the edge and just run it along the edge there. Once you have that done, it's really easy. Then you can just remove the rest of the release paper and smooth it down over the rest of the panel. When you're doing a negative mask, you do want to hang on to all of the pieces because that will help you line everything up. So here I'm taking the outline Joy that was cut from the mask, and I'm setting that inset on the masking paper we've already put on the card panel, so that way I can line up the inside of the O and make sure it gets in the correct place. Okay, now for the fun part, we're going to be doing our stenciling. We're using that Festive Greenery Builder Stencil set. I'm starting out here with what are going to be the berries. I've got some ruby red fresh dye ink along with my mini blending brushes, which is going to make this really easy to color in. Now you could do this without any stencils. You could just ink blend when you're working with a negative mask, and that would look really nice as well. But it's pretty fun to have the stenciled image inside of that negative mask, and you'll see once we get done with all the stencils how neat that looks. So I'm just coloring in the berries where I think the mask is. It's sometimes a little hard to tell, but now I'm coming in here with some jet black fresh dye ink, and I'm going to do the stems. You could do this in a brown or any color that you wanted to, but I thought it would look really nice in black. And then I'm going to come in and do my leaves in some greens. So once I get all of the little stick parts there down, I'm going to come in with the green. I've got some forest glades for this color. Really pretty. Again, using the mini blending brushes. And a nice thing you can do is you can use the lid of your ink pad in order to tap off your blending brush. I've been doing that a lot more lately, and then that ink is always just sitting there for me to be able to use whenever I want to grab it. So once I had that down, I wanted to do a little bit of detail, so I brought in some forest glades, and I'm using the detail blending brushes, and I'm just going along the base of each one of those leaves in order to darken them up really nicely, so that way there's a little more depth to those leaves once we take everything off. So you can see we're going to take the mask off. This is my favorite part of any kind of masking, is when you take off the mask. Who doesn't love a good reveal? Because we had that mask on, when we take it off, the only place we're going to have our stenciling is the negative area. That's why we call this negative masking. So I can also take off the center of the O here, and it's really starting to take shape. So now I'm going to use the same die, and I'm actually going to cut out 3 of them in black cardstock because I want that outline of the word joy, because it's going to go right over our stenciled image. If you stamped to do this technique, then you would already have the stamp still there on your card panel, so you'd have a nice black outline. I think this is kind of fun though, where you have an outline word die, because then you get the dimension and texture on top of everything with the die cuts. So I've layered all 3 of those up with some liquid glue. You can see I used my reverse tweezers there just to hold it while I put each layer on. And then you can pinch around the edges just to get everything nice and lined up. And if you want to, you can put that underneath an acrylic block. Now I'm using that gorgeous botanical 3D embossing folder. And by the way, this works perfectly with the Festive Greenery Builder Stencil set. So you could use those together. I'm not using it together for this card, but I wanted to point that out. Off camera, I did go ahead and cut down the panel where we had the negative masking with the stenciling. So that way it's going to have a little bit of a red border, you'll see, and then we'll still have a border where we can see all of that gorgeous embossed detail. But first I am going to glue down my black outline over that gorgeous negative masking stenciling technique we did. And now I'm going to put my embossed panel onto my A2 sized card base. I'm doing this with some double-sided tape because that helps ensure that you don't lose any of that detail that you have from an embossing folder. So I'm just putting a couple strips on the back there, and then I can fold down just about 1/3 to 1/2 of the release tape, line everything up before I commit. And the way that works is that release tape kind of acts as a spring, so that way your card panel that has the tape isn't touching anything until you decide to push down. So you can see I'm going to push down there, get it exactly where I want it, and then I can remove the rest of the release tape and everything will stay just as it's supposed to in the right spot. Once I have that done, I've cut out a piece of red cardstock to be just a little bit smaller to give us about 1/4 of an inch border all the way around so that we can see that beautiful embossed detail in the background. First, I'm going to go ahead and glue my panel that I cut down with the stenciling, and then I can go ahead and put the whole thing onto my card base that I have the embossing folder panel on. Using that same trick I did with the double-sided tape, this will help it to stick really well to the embossed image. Last but not least, I'm going to come in here with some gold confetti to add a little bit of bling to my card. Look how cool that negative masking turned out. We have our stenciled image and it's only behind the joy. I love how this looks. And like I said, you could also do ink blending. You don't have to use a stencil for this technique. So I hope you'll give this a try. I did want to mention to you guys that this video is part of the October 2023 release video hop for Altenew. So be sure to check down in the description below for all of the information on the giveaways, and also so you can check out any of the products that I was using today. I hope you guys picked up some tips and tricks. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that I can continue bringing you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.